How the first letter was written. Once upon a most early time was a primitive man, and he lived in a cave and wore very few clothes, and he couldn't read and he couldn't write, and he didn't want to. His name was Tegumai Bobsulay, but we will call him Tegumai for short. And his wife's name was Teshumai Tebindro, but we will call her Teshumai for short. And his little girl daughter's name was Tafimai Metalumai, but I'm going to call her Taffy. And they were all three very happy. As soon as Taffy could run about, she went everywhere with her daddy Tegumai, and sometimes they didn't come home to the cave till they were hungry. And then Teshumai Tewindro said, "Where in the world have you two been to? Why are you so dirty? Really, my Tegumai, you are no better than my Taffy." One day, Tegumai Bobsulai went to the Wagai River to get some fish for dinner, and Taffy went too. Tegumai's spear was made of wood and shark's teeth at the end. It was a very good spear, but he broke it. "There's a lot of fish here. What should I do?" said Tegumai. "There's your big black spear at home," said Taffy. "Let me run back to the cave and ask Mummy to give it to me." "It's too far for your little fat legs," said Tegumai. "We must fix it." He sat down and began to mend the spear. Taffy sat down too, with her toes in the water, and thought. Then she said, "I say, Daddy, isn't it terrible that you and I don't know how to write, is it? We can't send a letter for your black spear." Just then a stranger man came along the river, but he was a Tawara, and he did not understand Tegumai people. He stopped and smiled at Taffy because he had a little girl daughter at home. Tegumai went on mending his spear. "Come here," said Taffy. "Do you know where my mummy lives?" And the stranger said, "Silly," said Taffy. "I only want him to do what I want him to do, and he doesn't understand me." The stranger man sat down on the grass and thought, "This is a very wonderful child. She must be the daughter of that chief who is so great that he doesn't look at me." So he smiled politely. "Now," said Taffy, "I want you to go to my mummy, because your legs are longer than mine, and you won't fall into the river, and ask for Daddy's black spear." The stranger man thought, "This is a very, very wonderful child. She shouts at me, but I don't understand a word of what she says. But if I don't do what she wants, I think that the chief will be angry." He got up and found a big piece of bark and gave it to Taffy. He did this to show that his heart was as wide as the birch bark, but Taffy didn't quite understand. "Oh," said she, "you want my mummy's address? Of course. I can't write, but I can draw pictures. Can I have a shark's tooth, please?" The stranger thought, "This is a very, very wonderful child. My shark's tooth is magic, and I know that nobody can touch it." So he gave Taffy the shark's tooth, and she said, "Now I'll draw you some beautiful pictures. First I'll draw Daddy fishing. It isn't very like him, but Mummy will know because his spear is broken. Well, I'll draw the spear that he wants. It looks as if it was sticking in the Daddy's back, but that's because the piece of bark is not big. That's the spear I want you to bring, so I'll draw a picture of me. My hair doesn't stand up like I drew, but it's easy to draw that way. Now I'll draw you. I think you are very nice, really, but I can't make you nice in the picture, so I'm sorry." The stranger man smiled. He thought, "I think a big battle is going somewhere about, because this girl has drawn the chief with spears in his back. I think she wants me to call all the great chief's people to help him." "Look," said Taffy, "I drew you, and I put the spear onto your hand. Don't forget to bring it. Now I'll show you how to find my mummy's living address. You go on and on till you come to 2 trees, and then you go over a hill, and then you come into a swamp full of beavers. I drew only their heads, and that's all you'll see of them. Be careful, don't fall in the swamp. Then our cave. It isn't as high as the hills, but I can't draw things very small. That's my mummy near our cave. She is beautiful. She is the most beautiful mummy. You don't think I drew her beautiful, do you? Please don't forget about the spear. I drew the black spear outside the cave, but it's inside really. You will show the picture to my mummy, and she will give it to you. I drew my mother with her hands up because I know she'll be so pleased to see you. Isn't it a beautiful picture? The stranger man looked at the picture, and he said, If I do not bring Chief's people to help him, he will be killed by his enemies. Now I see why the great chief doesn't look at me. He knows that his enemies are hiding in the bushes and will see the letter. That's why he has turned his back, and the wonderful child drew the terrible picture showing me his difficulties. I will get help for him from his tribe. He did not even ask Taffy the road, but ran off like the wind, with the birch bark in his hand. Don't ask me questions, said Taffy to her daddy, and when you know all about it, and you'll be surprised. You don't know how surprised you'll be, Daddy. Very well, said Tegumai, and went on fishing. The stranger man ran and ran, till he found Teshumai Tevindro at the door of her cave. She was talking to some other primitive ladies who had come in to a primitive lunch. Taffy looked like Teshumai, so the stranger man smiled politely and gave Teshumai the picture. When Teshumai saw the picture, she cried out and flew at the stranger man. The other primitive ladies at once knocked him down and sat on him in a long line of 6 while Teshumai pulled his hair. Now I understand everything, she said. He has stuck my Tegumai all full of spears, and poor Taffy was afraid of him, and her hair stands all on end. And now he brings me that terrible picture. Look! She showed the picture to all the primitive ladies sitting on the stranger man. Here is my Tegumai with his arm broken. Here is a spear on his back. Here is a man with a spear ready to throw. Here is another man throwing a spear from a cave. And here are a lot of people. They were Taffy's beavers really, but they did look rather like people. Coming up behind Tegumai. Isn't it shocking? Most shocking, said the primitive ladies. And they called together all the chiefs of the Tegumai people, who told the stranger man to lead them down to the river and show them where poor Taffy was. By this time the stranger man felt a little nervous, with 6 primitive ladies sitting on him. He did not understand a word they were saying, but he led them back to the bank of the Wagai River. And there they found Taffy, sitting on green grass, and Tegumai fishing with his mended spear. Well, you have been quick, said Taffy, but why did you bring so many people? Daddy, dear, this is my surprise. Are you surprised, Daddy? Very, said Tegumai, but I think there will be no more fishing today. Why the Tegumai people are here, Taffy? And so they were. First of all, walked Teshumai, Tevindro, and other primitive ladies. Behind them came the poor stranger man. Behind them came the Tegumai people. They were all there, dancing and shouting, and Tegumai thanked them a lot. Then Teshumai Tevindro ran down and kissed Taffy. I can see you didn't bring my daddy's black spear, said Taffy. And what are you doing to my nice stranger man? But Teshumai Tevindro didn't answer her question. "Where are the bad people who spared you, my darling?" she asked her daughter. "There weren't any," said Tegumai. "My only visitor this morning was the poor stranger man that you are trying to kill. Aren't you well, or are you ill?" Or Tegumai people. "He came with a terrible picture," said the head chief. "A picture that showed you were full of spears." That was me who gave him that picture," said Taffy. "You," said the Tegumai people all together. "You." "Taffy, dear, I'm afraid we are going to have a little problem," said her daddy, and he put his arm around her. "Explain, explain, explain," said the chief of the Tegumai people, and he hopped on one foot. "I wanted the stranger man to bring Daddy's spear, so I drew the picture," said Taffy. "There was only one spear, not many. I drew it 3 times to make sure. Now I can see that they look as if they stuck into Daddy's head. The birch bark was too small. And those things that Mummy called bad people are my beavers. I drew them to show him the way through the swamp. And I drew Mummy near the cave, looking pleased because he's a nice stranger man, and I think you're just the stupidest people in the world," said Taffy. "He's a very nice man." Nobody said anything at all for a long time, till the chief laughed. Then the stranger man laughed. Then Tegumai laughed, till he fell down. Then all the people laughed more and worse and louder. The only people who did not laugh were Teshumayo Tewindro and all the primitive ladies. Then the chief of Tegumai people cried and said and sang, "Oh, Taffy, you made a great invention." "I didn't want to. I only wanted Daddy's black spear," said Taffy. "Never mind. It is a great invention, and some day men will call it writing. Now it's only pictures, and, as we see today, pictures are not always easy for understanding. But a time will come, O babe of Tegumai, when we shall make letters, all 26 of them, and when we shall be able to read as well as to write, and then we shall always say exactly what we mean without any mistakes." "But today you brought all spears of Tegumai people, but you forgot my daddy's black spear," said Taffy. From that day on, very few little girls liked learning to read or write. Most of them liked to draw pictures and play about with their daddies, just like Taffy.